Fourth and Four podcast, sponsored by Inside the Leather Custom Putter Covers. Search Inside the Leather Shop on Etsy. Use promo code podcast at checkout to save 20% on your purchase. I'm Donald Lawrence. Our guest today is Sergio Gonzalez, the head coach for the Sam Rayburn Texans. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on the podcast.
Man, you're the first person to do it from inside a vehicle, so this might be a new trend.
Yeah, well, you know, gotta adapt and overcome. That's what we talk about in our program.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. You're a former defensive tackle. Let's start you out hot. Who are the three best defense tackles of all time?
For me, it's got to be Warren Sapp. You know, I'm going with Warren Sapp. You know, I'm a big old John Randall fan. You know, I mean, those are like my two. I mean, for me, I guess who would be my third? I really just have a top two for me. You know,
just the top two.
Yeah, those are my top two. They were nasty. You know, they were some of the first. You know, Warren Sapp was a big fella, but he had some speed with him, and John Randall was just nasty. He just undersized guy that got after it. You know.
With you, I think you know, some of those guys also get overlooked. You got the Washingtons and the Wilfords. Mm-hmm. Some of those guys just big, nasty guys that just took up double teams and let those linebackers play. But the list goes on. But those two, not only they take up space, but they had pass rush ability. They were able to get off blocks. They made tackles in the backfield. They didn't just eat up blockers. So those are two good ones. You grew up on the east side of Houston, attended Galena Park High School, where you were forced in the middle of the Yellow Jacket defense. 2004, you guys were 10-0. Take us through your high school experience and that perfect regular season.
I was a sophomore that year. There was about 8 of us that moved up to varsity as sophomores. I'm not gonna lie, you know, summer workouts. One of my good friends, he passed away a little bit over a year ago. Kyle Shuptron, a really good friend of mine. He said, "Well, fellas, I don't know if we'll be any good, but y'all want to go eat some Chinese food?" It was after a summer workout. We were picked, I think, to finish six out of 7. You know, we just worked hard. We didn't really look into all that stuff, but we would joke around and say we weren't very good. But that's just how our coaches trained us to not buy into hype, not buy into press clippings, just, you know, just work. So I guess we had believed that we weren't very good, and we just had to keep working hard. Our quarterback, Mikey Gutierrez, he was going to go straight baseball. He had decided to go straight baseball, and we were possibly going to have to start a freshman at quarterback. John McGaff, who ended up at Missouri as a receiver. But to start a freshman at quarterback, that would have been, I mean, that would have been tough. So our coaches were able to talk Mikey into coming back to football, and he ended up rushing for 1,800 yards as a quarterback that year. You know, we were a old school power I team. We were going to run speed option. That's where he made his money, on the speed op. He had one of the greatest fakes. And he would just that edge defender. He was able to fake a lot of guys out of their shoes and keep that ball and just break away. You know, we won 2 games on comebacks, last second plays. We got one against Orangefield, and then we played Dayton, which essentially was going to be for the district championship. We went to overtime. We were down 8-0 with about 1 minute and 30 left, and we came back and scored to send the game to overtime. Half our fans had already left and came back in overtime, and I believe we won 14-8. Dayton, we stopped Dayton on a 4th and 1 and won the game right there in overtime. And, you know, 10-0 was something special. You know, my father played for Galena Park. A bunch of my teammates, their dads played, or their grandpas played for Galena Park. So it meant a lot for us because it was the first time since 1964. It was the first time since 1964 that we had a perfect season. And it was the first outright district championship since 1968. So for us, it was a lot of history making milestones for us. And it was just cool to see the community. You saw a lot of cars that, you know, our mascot was Mr. Jack. You know, it's a yellow jacket. And you saw a bunch of cars with writings on the back of their car saying Mr. Jack is back. So it just felt good to give people some memories. You know, we didn't win the playoff game that year, so we didn't make it past the first round. But it just felt good to give some of the older people in the community memories of the 60s and 70s. Those were some golden years for Galena Park, and many of those people were our church friends whose husbands played on those teams, or their sons played on those teams. So it just felt good to, really just bring back those memories for people.
I haven't been coaching on too much on that side of town, but I do know this, that in probably 2013, 14, a guy named Ed Workin came over from y'all's district from Galena Park, and I've got an opportunity to sit with him a couple times and how serious he takes athletics. And I think right about that time was when Galena Park had built their stadium, which at that time was state of the art. I think it was built 2003, 2004 with the replay screen, all that stuff, man. How cool was that, playing in one of the first stadiums with a replay screen?
It was neat. It was neat. I loved it as a player. I loved it, but for me, I'm a history buff, and I'm a Galena Park through and through when I was growing up. And a bunch of the old Galena Park didn't like it because we were playing our home games in North Shore. But it was a great stadium. Like, it was beautiful, and it felt good to just have something that we could call home and take pride in. We all love DeMint. I grew up going to DeMint for games, but GPISD Stadium is something beautiful that the East Side needed, and Mr. Workin was revolutionary. I really believe he's a big reason why in the 2000s we had so much success, Galena Park and North Shore. He hired the right people. He made the right moves when it came to facilities, when it came to just things that we need in athletics. I mean, he's one of the best athletic directors in the state of Texas history, bar none.
I agree. You got an opportunity to be a head coach for the first time at Houston Chavez in 2021. Mm-hmm. You're now at Sam Rayburn. What have been some challenges that are unique to each job, and how have you addressed those?
At Chavez, it was a unique situation. It was my first head coaching job. I was able to get my two coordinators that I wanted with me, but after that, it was kind of slim pickings, whether it be just trying to get guys there, matching up teaching schedules. It was hard to compete with some districts on teaching schedules. So some of my guys, and I don't blame them. It was just hard for them to make that jump. So we had a staff of seven guys. We had a staff of 7 guys. Out of those 7, maybe 3, 4 were really knowledgeable. The rest of them we're learning as they go, but they worked hard. They gave me everything they had. And we just did our best. When we walked in, we only had 23 players in the program. Whenever I left to Sam Rayburn, I had left Chavez with 65 kids working out in off season. So I felt good about that. That's taking out the seniors that were part of that 23. 65 kids working out consistently in off season, getting ready for the year. Like I said, we had some challenges, but it's something that we were able to overcome because of the attitude we had, and just having that mentality that we weren't going to make excuses. We were going to try to find solutions. At Sam Rayburn, I have one of the most supportive principals in the world, and Vanessa Reyes. She's awesome. She supports me. She supports our athletics. She supports our kids. For us, I feel like we have everything we need to be successful. We're just young. We're very young. So we're working through a lot of youth. I started a bunch of sophomores last year, mixed with, a few good seniors that, we're going to start a lot of sophomores again next year. So our youth is a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. But for us, we're just building, and I think once those kids hit that age or hit that, how do I say, the light comes on for them that, hey, I belong on varsity. This is where I belong. I can perform at the highest level. I think we're going to be pretty good.
I remember seeing a couple pictures of you on Twitter that you send out from your program. One of them, you were doing some painting. I think that was at Chavez, maybe painting the locker room, something along those lines. Yes, sir. And I know at both stops, you've shown some of the development and the growth of the weight room and weight facilities.
Yes.
How important is that weight room to you?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, that's everything for us. We're still at 4 days a week. We're still at 4 days a week in the weight room. I know people have transitioned to, the third phase, which is doing more football. But for us, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we know the call or not. Right now, if we can't physically hold up, which was our problem this year at Rayburn, we just at times couldn't physically hold up defensively. And I told my coaches, I said, if we don't get stronger, if we don't get faster, it's not going to matter uh, what defensive call we make, what offensive play we call. We have to physically get stronger. So we're still 4 days in the weight room, 1 day outside, working a lot of speed starts, working a lot of stances, just teaching our kids the basics.
What is something you do in your current position to positively impact your staff or your players?
In this day and age where, the coaching shortage, there's a lot of openings that go unfilled. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to show my guys appreciation, more than once in a while. I try to buy them breakfast on Saturdays. I try to buy them breakfast randomly during the week whenever I can. I make them feel important because they are important. I've been on a staff where, I've been on staffs before where maybe one or two guys are really making the decisions and everybody else is kind of just doing the grunt work, which that serves a purpose. But, I think guys are more invested when you make their opinion matter and when you listen to their opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do everything they say. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do anything at all that they say, but you're listening and you're giving it a chance to kind of soak in your mind to see if that's a good idea or not. And it just empowers guys and gets them ready for the next level in their careers. And I feel like that's what I do for my staff.
Absolutely. The more you listen, the more buy-in, the more value that each coach has, the better they're going to perform because they feel a part of it, right? You can only do so much grunt work before you start looking for something else. You want to grow.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. We hit on the weight room earlier, and as I mentioned, you've shown different phases of your development of your weight room at Rayburn and at Chavez as you've been able to bring in some equipment, help your guys out. Besides the weight room, what part of your off-season program is the most important to you for in-season success?
Besides the weight room, I would say our mat room. When we do mat room, we transitioned away from it. We would do mat room on Wednesdays. We did it up until the end of January. But for us, it changed the mindset of our kids. Because it would get hot in there. It was hard. It was slippery. It was something hard mentally to get over. And I guess for our kids being pushed to that limit of, we're still going to get this done. You still have work to do. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if it's hot. Let's overcome. And by the end of mat room, we had kids coaching up each other, kids encouraging each other. It just that helped change our culture that, I think that we needed. Our kids are bought into each other and they see who's willing to go the extra mile for the team.
Yeah, and then how stringent are you in your mat room? Is everything like perfect commands? You're down, everything on command, all that stuff.
So everything's on command. If you have to repeat, you finish the drill whether you messed up or not. The coaches will yell repeat. If your group is repeated, you finish, you still lay out, and you get back in line. So we don't stop mid drill to restart a group. They're gonna finish their drill and then they're gonna do it all over again, get back in line.
Love it. And I love that stuff, develop the core strength and the confidence for the lineman, the layout part. When you talk about cutting, right? That's where you learn it. Those old linemen learn it in the mat room. And a lot of those guys, a lot of our guys, especially coming off the season, just historically, learning to move your own body and getting the stabilization in the ankles, knees, hips, shoulders from that mat room, the core strength that's there has paid off once you transition to that 4 days into the weight room at the end of January, early February, leading into spring ball.
Oh, for sure.
And gets the cardiovascular.
No, it does. It does.
Back in tune.
Yep.
All right. This past season, you played your former team. You won. After the game, you suffered a heart attack. You had 2 stents. put in because you had two arteries that are 100% blocked. Take us through that night. What'd you learn about that health screen?
That night was weird. It was a weird day. It was nerve wracking for me. I won't lie, because I invest in my kids no matter what. I have great relationship with those kids at Chavez, and when we spoke and I told them that I was going to Rayburn, it was tears between both of us. Myself and the kids. There was some shared tears. Um, I had some kids walk me to the parking lot just because I wasn't going to be there for athletic period, and they just wanted to walk with me one last time, give me a hug. And so that game there was a lot of emotion there. There was a lot of emotion. Then you add in the fact that my offensive coordinator took over. There was just some emotion there. The kids and I shared, we didn't really speak before the game. It wasn't, not animosity, but it was just a weird vibe, kind of like, all right, we just went from grinding together to we're each other's enemy for the day. And, it was just, it was just built up to be something more than it was. But it meant a lot to those kids. They played, I'm talking about the best football they had played up until that point. They didn't really have any bad snaps. They didn't really have any blown coverages. They played inspired football, and they gave us a run for our money. I think the stress of that game, it being so close, our quarterback was out that game, so we had to play a freshman at quarterback, and we gave the ball to our running back pretty much 40 times that night. They knew it was coming, and we just had to grind it out. And I think the lesson I learned is, don't ever let the moment get too big, or don't ever let the moment take on a life of itself that it doesn't need to. At the end of the day, it was another game. I think I probably put added stress on myself just because of how close the game was. And honestly, it might have been a blessing in disguise. I don't think if I don't get that stressed out that game, I don't think I find out that I have two clogged arteries. I put so much stress on myself that, and I say stress just because I always want to do well. I always want to make sure our kids play a good, clean game, and it's just different playing your old team. And it was a blessing in disguise that all the EMTs were there at Barnett Stadium. All the workers at Barnett Stadium, they remembered me, and they knew I wasn't right, and they brought the card out for me to drive me to the EMT. The HISD workers at Barnett looked out for me. And that's what happens when you treat people right. They want to have conversations with you, talk to you, and they were checking on me. They saw I didn't look right. But it was a blessing in disguise because it really changed my life. I had some bad habits, and I talked to people about it. A lot of coaches probably dip tobacco and stuff like that. That's not good for you. I 6 months pretty much cold turkey. I gave that up. Giving up some of the fatty foods I used to eat, late night foods. If it gets to 8 o'clock and we're still game planning, I'm not going to eat. I might eat some pretzels or something. But, the late night runs to a taco place or late night runs to Burger King, those are over. I don't do that. I'm on medication now, just a preventative medication. By the grace of God, I had zero heart damage. I just the clogged arteries, but my heart is 100% healthy. So just thankful for everything happening the way it did.
Yeah. And when we were texting back and forth earlier, we talked about some irony and what was happening texting back and forth, but the irony of having that come out when you're coaching against your old team, your old staff, that is, that's really unique.
And it was tough for those kids too, because I think they saw the ambulance take me in, and my phone was just flooded with text messages from all my Chavez kids. They had just lost the game, but now they're worried about their coach who just left them a few months ago. And it was tough on them too. And And I'm not a very selfish guy when it comes to things, and I felt bad for them having to deal with all those emotions.
Right. When you first started coaching, we kind of skipped your transition from high school into coaching. You want to hit on that a little bit? Like, what'd you do after high school? I read, when I was doing my research on you, I read an article in the Houston Chronicle, and you have a quote saying you knew you always wanted to be a coach. So what steps did you take from high school into getting into coaching, and then what were your stops along the way?
So I knew I wanted to be a coach, but I let my dad kind of get in my ear when I first got to college, and he was like, "Son, you might want to do business or do something different. You can always coach a little league team or something." And he was just looking out for me. He was looking out for me. So I started taking business classes, and it just wasn't for me. And I knew what I wanted to do, and I finally just, had the courage to tell my dad, because I grew up where, I'm not going to disobey my dad like that, and he wasn't trying to tell me what to do. He was just trying to look out for me. But I got the courage to tell him, Dad, what I wanted to do was be a coach, and that's what I want to do. So I reached out to one of my former coaches who was the defensive coordinator at LaPorte, Dusty McGee, who's now the superintendent of Liberty ISD. And, I told him I wanted to coach, and he said, well, why don't you come out to LaPorte and just check it out? And that was probably the thing that changed my life the most, was the invitation to come visit LaPorte. Coach LaRoe was the head coach, and it was just a bunch of stud coaches on that staff. At that time, that was the recent golden years of LaPorte, where, we beat North Shore in the regular season twice. We beat Port Arthur when they were beat Katy in the playoffs. It was just one of those. It was just one of those experiences that money couldn't buy, and I was just grateful to be part of it. And because of that, it opened a lot of doors. It opened a lot of doors for me, and still it's paying off. My new special teams coordinator, Coach Cameron Willie, he was on those teams. So he's coaching with me now on my staff, and he just got promoted to special teams coordinator. So those relationships are still paying off to this day.
That's what it's all about, right? The relationships you make along the way. I've been at places. I've been at A&M Consolidated for 1 year. I've been at another place for 3 years. I've been at a place. I was down in the Valley at Brownsville Porter for 2 years. And that's the thing that you always leave with. Whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 20 years. Yeah. It's the relationships and having the connection with those guys as you move along. And you never know who's gonna move into that position that you may need someday. Or who's going to be needing a job that you want to help out because they're a great coach.
Oh, for sure. It's all about relationships. I think that's what's helped me along the way. I've been different places, but I always made it a point that I was never going to burn a bridge. I was never going to burn a bridge. How you treat people goes a long way. It goes a long way, and it goes a long way with retaining coaches too. Now that I'm learning in this head coach role, how you treat people will go a long way in retaining coaches. And how you work, you might not keep a lot of coaches just because you work hard, but I would never stop working hard just to keep a coach. I think expectations and how you treat people, if it matches up, you're going to have a good staff.
Yeah, the role of the head coach is to set the competence and the work ethic standard for the entire staff, right? So I've seen you at clinics and things like that. That's the competence part. I haven't seen what you do day to day from the work ethic part, but from just talking to you, I imagine it's there.
Yes, sir.
Who helped mentor you earlier in your career, and how'd you grow from that relationship?
I'm gonna be honest. My former boss at Dobie, Kevin Bernithi, and then Cirillo Ojeda, the head coach at Aldine. Those two guys have really mentored me in my career and shown me, the right things to do. They've been my mentor since day one. Coach McGee, but has also been a mentor. But those two guys have just been with me the whole way, teaching me how to do things right, teaching me how, structure of a program and doing the little things right. And then later in my career, it was Jason Hinkleman and BJ Gott, Coach Gott at Pado. Those two guys. Coach Hinkleman was our defensive coordinator. Those two guys are pretty much the foundation they help build the foundation with me and what we do at Sam Rayburn in our program. I just believe in, the Katy way, and when I say the Katy way, the Katy Tiger way, and we did it the Pato way at Pato, and now we're doing it the Rayburn way at Sam Rayburn, and but it's a formula that has stood the test of time if you stick with it, and results will come.
Coach Bernithi might be the most mentioned coach on this podcast. You're going to be episode 16, and I think you're 3 or 4 that has mentioned him. And I had a chance to visit with him last spring. He's a great dude, and I know he's going to get LaPorte rolling. And then I was on the way out of Pearland when Coach Gott and Coach Hinkleman came in, but they were great to me. They were obviously it wasn't the situation that I wanted, but they were professional. Coach Gott was up front, and then just as the transition happened, Hinkleman's kind of that guy that helps break the ice in the office.
Yeah, he does.
He was funny, man. He was cool, and I wish those guys nothing but success.
Sure.
All right, we're going to go to a 4th and 4 situation. You're going to answer from an offensive standpoint, huh? As a head coach on the offense?
I'm asking for offense.
All right. All right, 4th and 4. There's 2 minutes left. You got no timeouts. You're down 5 on the 50. Okay? It's 4th and 4. What's your thought process, personnel formation, and play?
Well, we're going to be in pro. We're in the 50. If we're in the middle, we're in the middle of the field. I need to get to the sidelines. I need to just – are we down by a touchdown, you said?
You're down 5.
Down 5, okay.
Yeah, you got to get a first down.
Got to get a first down. We're going to be in pro. I'm probably going to fake belly, boot out, throw it to our tight end corner route. We're going to probably tell them to break it at, usually want to get to 10 to 12. I'll probably break it at 8 just so we can have – just so it's not a harder throw and trying to hit our tight end in the corner off a boot.
So you're trying to get the first down. Let's live for another
down.
day.
Get out of bounds. Let's live for another down.
Yeah, 2 minutes is plenty of time if you get that first down.
Yes, sir.
That's it, man. Anything else you want to talk about? I know Texas High School Coaches or Hispanic Texas High School Coaches Association. You've been involved in that. Anything you want to mention with that real quick?
We have our clinic coming up May 13th. We have some good speakers, good vendors that are going to be there. It's in Leander at Leander High School. It's a one-day clinic. It's something just for us to help coaches. And it's funny because I think the misconception at first was it's only for Hispanic coaches. It's really kind of like the umbrella, but we always joke around and say everybody's invited to the carne asada. Everybody's invited to the barbecue. For us, it's just a way to help coaches and bring coaches together. I didn't realize there was a disconnect between coaches in the Valley and down south and coaches up north of Corpus. I did not realize there was a disconnect until this association brought us together. And there's kind of a negative connotation there that, the northern coaches think they're better than the coaches down south and vice versa. And, what I've learned is once you get conversations going, ain't nobody better than nobody. We're all football coaches trying to do the right thing by kids. And there's some studs down there in South Texas and coach some football. I just believe that, it's brought awareness. It's brought people together and, we keep it going. The social's been a hit and I think everybody's loved it. For us, it's just trying to just keep building awareness and helping coaches. That's what it's for.
Yeah, I might have one of the unique distinctions here in Houston of actually doing 2 years in Brownsville at Brownsville Porter Band, and it was amazing. It was a great time. It was the best thing for me from a first job standpoint because it's similar to what you were talking about at Chavez and Rayburn. Smaller staff, there's work to be done. You got to get down. You got to get to work. And that's where you learn work ethic, man. Our head coach was a guy named Robert Valdez, Big Bopper. We used to call him Big Fu Manchu. and we put our lockers alphabetical, and there was about 200 kids crammed into a soccer locker room, and we had 38 kids in the football locker room. And, it was just taking those kids and taking care of them, man. A lot of them didn't have hot water. They all showered. Anytime you had food, they were on it. And you just learn work ethic. You learn how to take care of kids, and you learn that the relationships that you build with those kids and sending them off to get out of the environment they're in to go pursue what they want to pursue is what it's all about.
Sure. No, it's a humbling experience, and, it makes you better as a coach just to experience that. And you see, even for myself, I grown up in Galena Park. I never realized at times, why maybe this certain friend's dad never came to the game or, why it was only his mom and him living together, because I had two parents. And now that I look back and just always having those conversations with my dad used to always say, be grateful because not everybody has what you have. But it doesn't make you better than them. You just experience something different. And having that, having those experiences has really helped me as a coach understand people and understand, just societal issues in our programs or things that come up,
Coach, I really appreciate it. Tell the listeners how to find you on social media, you and your program.
For me, it's Gons 5307. For Sam Rayburn, it's at Sam Rayburn. I got to go back and see it. I have it. It's at Sam Rayburn FB. At Sam Rayburn FB.
All right, Coach. I appreciate it again. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Lawrence FB. Search 4th and 4 Podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, and YouTube. Man, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking time from your giving your daughter a break. I know you're at the softball games. I got soccer with my 5-year-old tomorrow, and all he wants to talk about is scoring goals, and all I want to talk to him about is spacing, passing, get back on defense. So I'll be in the same boat tomorrow.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate you having me. It's been an honor and a privilege.
All right, big dog. I'll catch you later, man. Bye.